Welcome back. The most generic intro possible. This is the Maturity Project, and I am your host, Chad Ever Broshears, or Sir Chad Ever Broshears. If you know, you know. And today's conversation is about emotions, and because emotions is definitely one of our areas of maturity. And yes, you can absolutely develop them. So here's the thing about it. It's one of the 8 areas. I don't have them in any kind of like specific order when it comes to 8 areas of maturity. So, but it typically falls early in the conversation just simply because it is an early experience for us. Typically we'll have emotional experiences. We could qualify faster than you will finances, or faster than you will business, faster than you will sexuality and spirituality. You'll have the emotional maturity variable showing up well before all those things. But today's more about what I wanted to talk more about anyway, is that the emotional values and developing yourself, and why, when we've gone through a significant amount of pain in anything, we have the reaction that is to what you could qualify as the experience of burning your hand on a stove or something hot. You didn't realize it was hot prior, and then all of a sudden, wow, great pain. And then you got to deal with the healing process of it. Think about it. That's also how emotions work. The first time you experience betrayal, what that feels like. It's like burning your hand. It's not easy to deal with it. And then comes, well, I'm never going to do that again. The problem with anything, whenever you close off, is that not only are you limiting yourself from the direct effects of that thing happening to you again in the future, the best of your ability to avoid it, you also have anything that's adjacent to it, anything that's within the avenues of that particular experience. It's whatever it is that would trigger you back into protecting yourself against that thing, that emotional reaction. But you limit yourself because you get like close to that avenue that reminds you exactly of the event that burnt you, the event that hurt you significantly. And then there's what we now refer to as triggering effect, where you may not have the ability to qualify it correctly. But what you have is you have the ability to feel it. You may not say, hey, this has happened before. It is not close enough to the direct avenue, but it's still close enough to trigger the emotional reaction. And what happens whenever we don't develop ourselves with intention emotionally, which is, by the way, when it happens, usually it's after the effect. You can do everything you can to prepare yourself cognitively for the emotional experience. You can do a lot for that. But until you get to do it, it is not easy to develop it. Actually, I think it's impossible to develop it, but impossible means without possibility. And I don't have that level of knowledge to say that it's truly impossible, but it occurs to be impossible. But hey, that's what developing your maturity is all about. So with what I'm up to now is to understand exactly what those emotional variables are, right? Like, for myself, there's the times that I had been betrayed, and I've shared this before. There was the 3 different times in my life, especially specifically dealing with women, that I developed a narrative based off of those experiences. The 3 most impactful relationships that were part of my formative years occurred, one whenever I was either 8 or 9 years old, another at 16, and then again at 21 really, that really laid the groundwork for me about what women were for me. She was really good. The first one had to do with a woman that my father had an affair with. And I had a massive crush on her, but I was too young to realize that there was an affair going on, and that what it even really meant. I'd heard the word, obviously, but no, I didn't know what it meant. And yeah, so and you'll hear other conversations about my father as this goes on, and where I actually feel who he was overall. But anyway, so the first experience that I had was, with women, was that, women will control me. I'm sorry, it's not they'll control me. Women don't care about me. Like, I mean nothing. So that's the first one. And the reason for that is because it's what I told myself whenever I found out. Because I had this massive crush on this woman. And when I found out that my father was sleeping with her and that they had an affair, it hit me with, women don't care about me. Like, after all of this, I got like 8 or 9 years old, right? But I still had these connections, and I had this desire to be validated, but I didn't know any of those things, and that meant that. And then there was, so then I had the crushing experience of coming to realization there, and then it left me with that burnt my hand on the stove kind of thing, which is, women don't care about me. I mean nothing. Then the next one had to do with my high school sweetheart. And as I've done an episode on this prior in this channel, but it was under growing up in the wilds of suburbia, not the maturity project. But I told myself from that one that women will destroy me. And as a high school sweetheart, like I said, it's just young love and all of this. And, I had been the person that took her virginity, and, all great. It was like a wonderful experience overall, because we did have a lot of fun together and all of this. And I really felt like I was growing toward her, and I was learning that I loved her, or I thought I was in love with her. And then she had told me, I won't go into all the details about it, but she had told me that when we were together, she had thought about my 2 best friends. It wasn't me. It was in a moment when I thought she was going to tell me that she loved me, because she said she wanted to tell me something. And I really thought, because of the way that everything was lining up, what I was thinking, how I was feeling, and the way that everything was going on around us, and the way she was behaving, her body language, the way she was like visually connecting with me for what I thought she was visually connecting with me. And then told me that she had thought, she thought about my 2 best friends when we were together, and it wasn't me. And it was this, I thought it was going this direction, and man, was I wrong. And it was incredibly painful. But I told myself in that moment that women would destroy me. And then when I was in my 20s, I moved in with this woman, and early 20s. I moved in with her when I was 20. And then I moved out when I was 23, halfway through the 23rd year. But anyway, the first year was fantastic. We had a lot of fun, and, really it was a good experience overall. And yeah, after that, every little thing I did was scrutinized. I had to lie to her just to see my parents, because she was so controlling. Now, this is a young person. She was definitely older than me. She was in her late 20s when we were together, and I was in my early 20s. But mid and then late whenever we'd split up. But yeah, it was everything. As I worked overtime, I had to explain to her that, I had to work overtime. When I did say that I wanted to see my family, I had to lie to her, because I got ridiculed, because, my father and I didn't have the best relationship at that point. And I shared with her, why I didn't feel like we had a great relationship, but not so articulately, right? It was more like a young guy, like upset. And then that was used back at me whenever I would say that I wanted to see him, and it didn't make sense to her, and all this stuff. And, it's an immaturity thing. And we were really struggling with that. And I just couldn't get past it. So I spent 2 years in that, where it was constant surveillance. And I told myself from that relationship that, women will control me. So they don't care about me. I don't matter. They'll destroy me, and they will control me. So that's the narrative I go into relationships with. And it's easy to trigger those things. But once that stuff comes up, my ability to be fully engaged with life is drastically restricted down to survival and independence, because of those 3 factors building into those narratives about how I feel about women. or how I feel women feel about me or whatever, you know, like the reality of women for myself. And so I have that, that avenue of thinking, that experience, and then anything that's adjacent to that that starts to feel that it's going to bring me back into that stream of feelings. And it really puts that fear into me that, you know, I can't be that person. I will not be that person ever again. That is in that the person that received those three things, those three experiences. You know, I'll never be in that position of weakness or, you know, that kind of, you know, pain again. Well, that creates that the adjacent avenues as well, which is, you know, there's things that aren't directly connected to it, but then all of a sudden there's that emotional feeling that comes in. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm not sure what shifted my mood. I was over here and I was having a good time, or whatever the mood was. Usually it's a good time because I really do enjoy life quite a bit. Even whenever things aren't great, I still enjoy life because that's living, right? And I take great appreciation for whatever. And you'll find that through this series as well. But yeah, I really don't want those things. So in order to mature those emotionally is to be aware of once those things start to come to light. What do you do about it? And how do you handle it? And what kind of cognitive reasonings do you use against the irrationality of emotion? And how do you nurture the irrationality into becoming more rational? And it does take nurturing. It does take love. You have to give yourself love and to realize that those things aren't truly who you are, and that you can develop out of it. You know, it's an absolute fascinating thing because we don't go through this typically. Our society does a lot about using emotion to get people to do things, as far as like buy things and then whatever motivates people to do things overall. But typically that is not a virtuous effort, you know, and it's left people ignorant emotionally. You know, then we don't have guides to really help us through those emotional growths. So the maturity project's intending to help give at least the awareness to it, and how you develop it is completely up to you. Just awareness is a great deal about what this whole thing is. So emotions can be matured. Oh, and this is completely up to you. So, but you have to realize it and be okay with the fact you're going to get hijacked. You're going to be out of your own control. You are going to have some of the greatest challenges ahead of you once you decide to start growing in these places, and it's going to seem like absolute chaos. It's going to seem like everything you built your life on is absolutely chaotic, like a snow globe shaken up, you know, because I'm going through my own experiences. So a snow globe shaken up from all the life changes that I've made recently. So, but I'm willing to take on whatever it takes to grow. And I got to tell you, it is a hard road, but I don't want to be on a different one. So as I've shared before, the Moses conversation and how I liken myself to Moses, I won't be in your utopia, but I can join you in the journey to get there. But when you get there, I'm going to continue on because it's what my life is called to do. So Moses wasn't allowed in heaven. You know, that was part of the agreement he had with God, that he wasn't going to get into heaven, but he was going to help others. So that's me. My utopia is the journey, is the hardships, is the joys. It's all of that. And I just have to continue to grow. Is that great? That gives me the greatest joy in life, which also is spoken about in the pretty much the Abrahamic religions, but predominantly I'm more familiar with Christianity. And that is, you know, suffrage is going to give you your greatest rewards. So it's to bear a cross. Find things in life and bear a cross for it. So the maturity project sure as hell is a cross to bear, man. This is something that I want the world to have and to give just awareness. And then where the guidance comes in from there is up to you. You got to get the ones that work for you. But first we got to start off with, let's get to understanding there are 8 different areas and then what we can do about it. And then find the people to help mentor you, and then take it on yourself too. There's times when you won't be able to find a mentor. It's hard to find a mentor in emotions. So anyway, join me in this journey, will you? All right. I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Chad Everett Broshears to some. If you know, you know. And this is the Maturity Project. Share this video with the person in your life you want to break the ice with. You know, start that conversation of power. Take it to the next level. You know, start making some shifts. Put the work in. Develop yourself. You will absolutely amaze yourself in the process. Most of the time it's through looking back, but, you know, hindsight, but still you're going to, you know, you will make progress. You know, you will go towards your goals. So, all right. Don't forget, like the video, comment if you got something out of it you'd like to share, And subscribe to the channel. It will help me out quite a bit, because this is something that I really do want to create as a legacy for the world to have. And it'd be nice to make money in the process, but at the same time, I can't help but do this. This is a calling for me. So, all right. Well, yeah, it pretty much covers it. Get geared to grow. Because this is how we're gonna go to the next level. You got to be geared to grow. Or ABG, always be growing. So, till next time. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So let's take on those good intentions and let's try to turn it into a utopia versus a dystopia. So until next time, okay? We got a world to get to. We really need to work on ourselves first. Let's see it. Let's get to it.